Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fourth week for the spring cohort of ReFre5hed. I am here with, of course, Kevin.
What's up?
And we have two special guests with us. We have Scott Halford.
How's it going, everyone?
And we have Victor Zambrana.
Yay!
So for those of you, I believe they were on other podcast episodes, but if you are new to this cohort and have not listened to our previous episodes, you might not know who they are, but maybe you do from seeing them in the buildings or emails and things of that nature. So I'm going to start off by having them introduce themselves and what they do, their titles, and all that jazz.
Go ahead, Scott. Kick it off.
My name is Scott Halford. I'm the Network and Systems Administrator here at Kennequot. I do everything from the phone system to help out Victor with the Valcom system, management of the day-to-day of the office, and anything else that's put on my plate for the day.
My name is Victor Zambrana, and I'm just your friendly IT guy throughout the district. Whatever you need done, I'm the guy.
Literally, whatever you need done, I'm the guy. It's really funny. I texted Victor, what was it, last week or something? I pushed into a class at Ronkonkoma Middle School, and it was a communications class, and we were teaching video editing. I just needed, any old footage just to use through Canva. And the footage that first popped up was of Victor. And I was like, I just need some crazy idea. So I put him on a beach with a penguin. And I said to all of them, if you see this guy, ask him how his pet penguin is. And now they're on the lookout for you.
Nice. Now I got to get to RMS, right?
RMS,
I got to get to RMS.
You got to start walking the halls.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm interested. I'm intrigued by this penguin.
What is his name?
I did not give him a name. I should have had the kids name it.
Exactly.
They thought it was hilarious. They were like, yo, you just took one of your coworkers and put him on a beach. And then I was like, and we're going to add a penguin. And we used AI, and that was a whole nother discussion. But one of the topics, so actually let me rewind a little bit. In one of our other cohorts for the podcast, we had Scott on, and Scott spoke a lot about our phone system. And when the idea came across, I'm going to be brutally honest, I just said, why are we talking about the phone system to the teachers? That was definitely a lesson learned on my part, because all of the feedback from that was very positive, and they were like, I didn't know that all these the phones in my room had these features. So with that said, when Kevin and I were talking about topics that we wanted to talk about for this cohort, the PA system came up, and I said that's a brilliant idea because it impacts everyone. It's physically in all of the classrooms, the hallways, etc. And maybe there's something that, especially me and all of the teachers out there, that we don't know about the PA system. And then I also realized in the last 20 minutes that they taught me that it's not a PA system. It's a mass notification system. So I'm just sitting here learning all of these things, and hopefully you'll learn something too. So with that said, I'm going to ask you to kind of talk about the history of our old system and why the change to the new system, because I think when we see things and they work, if we think they work, it's like, if it's not broke, why fix it? So I think you guys have a beautiful explanation of why the switch.
Yeah.
So I think the first sign that we needed to change was during the pandemic, when some of the components of our old PA system started to fail. And like many of us found with used cars and trying to get parts from other countries, they were very hard to obtain. So that was the first challenge that came up during the pandemic. Luckily, we do have a local resource that was able to get the parts for us for our old system. But one of the other challenges that we had was we had 3 different systems. The old PA system was an analog system, and it didn't communicate between buildings. So it was really a static piece of equipment that was, only a one-use entity. So going to a new PA system to allow integrations with some of our security features and our IP phone system was the next direction we needed to head in.
Yeah, it was a challenge. So unfortunately, with time and things changing, we needed to find a better solution to resolve those challenges that we were facing at that time. So then the conversation started about, PA systems, really called mass notification systems, and finding a solution that would work for the district. This was like a good 3 years in the making, just trying to find funding, trying to find a product that we had to research, a product that would be flexible for the district and affordable. And that's how we kind of came to the conclusion of where we're at today.
So when we say why we're changing, it's that communication between buildings is probably number one?
Communication between buildings, and also that integration piece between our security system and our phone system. Our old PA system, many of you probably remember the wall phones that we had. That was the way that we connected to each one of the classrooms within the building. This was just a further enhancement that allowed our new phone system, which we brought in about 3 or 4 years ago, to be tied into that mass notification system. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and now I know you touched upon a little bit of the planning piece.
Yes.
In that, one sentence. Can you expand on that? So I know that just from being around you guys, I know that the planning was not an overnight thing.
No, absolutely not.
I know that there were many, many meetings. Many meetings, quadruple the amount of many's for this project. So
yes.
If you could touch upon what something like a project like this, what does it look like as far as planning?
Well, planning was, first of all, finding the needs of the district. Not only was it designed to replace the PA portion, but we wanted to add the security aspect behind it. So, now changing as a mass notification system, we going to an IP-based solution, we actually found that we can have new features that we never had before. Strobe lights, digital signage that we've never had before. Pre-recorded, actions that we've never been able to have before. It just highlighted a whole new direction of what we can do with these systems.
Yeah, and another piece of it too was making sure that the PA system, mass notification system we chose, would play nicely with our current components, be it the security system or phone system. So in our planning, that was one of the first questions that we asked, if they worked with an Avaya or a Genetec security system, so that we can integrate into those things.
Awesome. So now you've mentioned the lights, the digital signages, and all the benefits. So I was on a committee recently, the Workplace Violence Committee, and one of the things that we were looking for when we did all the building visits were those blue lights around the exterior of the buildings, which I believe was there prior.
Yes.
So now, I know you mentioned prior to us recording, there's been some
upgrades, some add-ons.
Right?
Yeah. So we went from having just exterior lights and from a lockdown being triggered through Genetec to now being adding classrooms and bigger buildings. So you have cafeterias, you have auditoriums. Now actually having signage during a lockdown and having some type of lightage also. So we went from just having a couple small spaces that were notified of a lockdown to having the whole building notified in a matter of seconds.
So now I'm in a classroom. There's something going on. I'm not even going to get specific because I don't wish anything to go on. But something goes on. What should I, as a teacher, expect the PA system to?
Well, once it's triggered, whether it be triggered from the main office or a particular area, then you'll get across. Well, depending on what the action is, if it's going to be a lockdown, you'll get some verbiage saying lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. And you'll get the amber lights in the classroom, and at that point you'll get the building to be in a lockout status, and then people will be notified of the status of the building, where we never had anything even remotely to that nature before. And
I can tell you that just from my office in Sycamore, it is very loud, so you can't miss it. You cannot miss it. I remember that being a hot topic in the beginning of the year, but it's a good thing for the volume. It's very clear, and I do like the signage because there's, teachers, staff, TAs, aides that, sometimes you miss maybe the announcement, so now they can look directly to something and you have...
Yeah. Well, I even know, too, in past, doing the drills, you really didn't know if it was over or not until security or someone came over the loudspeaker. So now with the visual representation of the lockdown or lockout, which is a great feature on the mass notification system.
So now with everything, and I know the teachers know this, whenever there's something new, that comes out, they receive training. Whether it's anything Google related, Nearpod, all these different instructional technology platforms. I know that there was a lot of training had for every building because it's not just something that it's press a button and ready, set, go.
Yeah.
So what did that training look like for all the buildings?
Yeah, so what we ended up doing was we went to every main office. We scheduled some time with the principals, the clericals, and security that was there. We spoke about what the new functions were. We actually demoed it. That way they can see exactly what it was going to happen on at their buildings. And then after that, we spoke about it a little bit, and what improvements we could do later on. So that's kind of where we're at now, just trying to build. It's like a cake where you build every layer,
Constantly making improvements.
Yeah, exactly. Constantly making improvements.
So are there more features that we do not have currently that we maybe possibly could have in the future, or the ability to add on if we decide to?
So currently we are working on a feature that we had in the old system, which was considered the night bell. Many of the staff here that are here during the day probably don't know about this feature, but if a student's parent went to the building after 6 o'clock, they rang the bell, they would know about it. So what we're working on right now is the video phones, the video doorbells, at the front of each building. After a certain time, once the project's complete, if a visitor hits that button, their voice will be spoken over the speakers that we specify in the building, allowing the custodian or whoever's in the building to hear or open the door for the parent or contractor, whoever needs to get into the building at the time. So that is one project that we're working on right now. There are some other things that are on the table, but I won't really discuss them because they haven't been approved through the budget yet, but there are some other projects that we are planning on for next year. Certain enhancements that will change the text that gets displayed on the screen itself. I'm excited about those, but again, I don't want to make too much mention now until it's 100% approved through the budget. But yeah.
It's good to know that the district has invested in such a platform that you can expand upon. And I think that's the main difference between what we had and what we have, is that it is futuristic. And I know it's similar to the smart boards that we got, because I remember the old boards, it was like you couldn't do anything else. And then when we got the new rollout of the boards, you can now screen share and you can do all these futuristic options. So
the system's limited, but it's also very flexible in many ways. The way that it works is there's open and closed contacts, so we can send an electric signal, turn on, turn off, and we can display a message. So if there's a system out there that will allow for that triggering on and off of an open-closed circuit, we can trigger a message. So if there's a new system that we don't even have here in the district yet, that will allow for that, which that's really nice about this system, is it's flexible. Mm-hmm. So it's not saying it can only work with our security software and our IP phones. There might be another system that eventually we pull into the district that we start to utilize that we can tie into this. That's what's so nice about the system that we chose. Yeah. It's a very open architecture, so it will work with many different platforms.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for this information. This is definitely a topic that I've heard about but haven't spoken about, so it's definitely new for me. But hopefully everyone has gained some insight on the change. I know that in the beginning of the year, it's, we always question change, but this is definitely a positive change.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially in the realm of security and all of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
For sure.
It just opens more doors later on down the road for us to be able to provide more functions to the district. So it was a good change. It was a needed change. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
And we'll definitely share all of the responses with you once everyone listens and responds. And if everyone has any other questions that maybe we didn't cover, you can always type them in your discussion posts and we'll send them to Scott and Victor.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.